Right, so first we're going to be going over some of the drivetrain specifics of the 2000 Honda Accord. And the first thing is our transmission. The transmission that I have in this 2000 Honda Accord is a 5-speed manual with the following gear ratios, as you can see. All right, and moving on. So after it goes through the transmission, it goes through the final drive ratio, which is 4.062, and then it is then sent to the front wheels. And this car has an open differential, so it allows for even torque distribution despite the wheel speed of each of the wheels. All right, and then moving on, here's some other specs of the car. We have our curb weight, wheelbase, width, height, weight distribution, peak power, peak torque, and then also the height center of gravity. So these are some of the parameters that we're going to be using in the simulations later on. And now we're going to be moving on to the coast down testing of this vehicle. All right, and here's our 2000 Honda Accord coast down test. So for the first one, we did 60 to 50 miles per hour, and that's a difference in velocity of negative 4.47 meters per second. We also did one from 30 to 20, which is also the same value. So our time for 60 to 50 was 13.38 seconds, and our second time for 30 to 20 was a long 21.9 seconds. Put that through, we get our acceleration for the first one, acceleration for the second one. Here's our road load equation minus the grade, because the road was assumed to be flat. We have our first equation while plugging in all of these constants that we have right here. We have our mass, our air density, our gravity, our velocities, and the reason why the velocities are not average, 55 miles per hour and 22 or 25 miles per hour, is because my speedometer was off by about 3 miles per hour. So compensating for that, we get our conversions here into meters per second, and we have our area of the car as well. We plug all those in, we get our two equations. We have a simple add, eliminate situation here, where we can multiply the second equation by -1, add them together, get your CD value, which came out to be 0.25, and our rolling resistance, which came out to 0.0171. Now, these numbers were a little off. Might have been because the road wasn't completely flat as we thought. So I included a correction here where I found it online, the CD value to being 0.3, and we use that CD value to plug it back into here so that we can get our rolling resistance, which would be 0.0164 for that CD value. All right, so with our coast down test values, we plug those into the backwards sim that we created, and we got 22.39 miles per gallon. Now, that seems about right for this car. I mean, you can see here that the combined miles per gallon is 23. So for the US06 drive cycle, which has aggressive braking and stop and go traffic and all of that, I could see myself probably getting around that value. Then moving on to the series hybrid conversion, you can see how we added the regen braking in here. You can see that we used a 0 to negative infinity regen brake here, multiplied it by the electrical efficiency, and it was able to subtract that off the official energy consumed so that we could get 32 miles per gallon, which is a 10 mile per gallon boost, which is really good. So then we wanted to prepare for an EV conversion, and you can see our table here, we get a total weight of 2,600 pounds without the pack. So we plug that into the back sim, and this is what we get. You can see that We got 2.733 miles per kilowatt hour, and we got a pack size of 128 kilowatt hours, pack weight of 1,800 pounds, and we used LFP batteries, which are rated for 0.15 kilowatt hours per kilogram. The range we wanted to go at was 350 miles, and our final vehicle weight was 4,700 pounds, which is a lot heavier than the 2,900 that it was originally. So moving on to the comparison of all the simulations for the backward sims, you can see our weights here, fuel consumption for each, assuming these numbers here that we calculated before on the whiteboard, fuel cost per mile, range, because I just wanted to see how much range you could get out of each of these, and then the cost after 250,000 miles. The gas and the EV are very, very close. And this is including the initial cost of the EV pack, which would be $16,000, assuming the 125 kilowatt hour pack, which is about how much it is for a LFP battery nowadays. So these numbers are probably very variable compared on what gas prices are and what electricity prices are. In my case, it found that the EV does come up on top, not by too much, but you'd be saving a little bit money by getting the EV, and I'm sure over time, over the next 5 to 10 years, it would probably save you even more. And this is not even including maintenance costs. So we ran a Ford simulation of this car, and the simulated time was 16.441 seconds. Now that's about a second off from the actual quarter mile time, which isn't too bad. You can see our gear ratios here, our shift points. You can see where the transmission shifts. And here's our RPM and torque curves that I got off of Automobile Catalog. Decided to launch it at 5,000 RPM, so that would be about peak torque range. You can see that our gear 6 is 0.0001 because I just wanted the model to ignore that because this doesn't have a 6 gear. And yeah, that's about it. So then moving on to the Ford Sim for the EV motor, I found that with just iterating it a couple times that the equivalent EV horsepower was 150 to match the actual quarter mile time of 17.3 seconds. You can see our performance envelope here. And with that equivalent EV horsepower, we plugged it in to the Porsche Taycan model that was given. And we found that the optimal gear ratio was to be 6-1. Now, this is quite low compared to other cars, but maybe due to the lower tire diameter, which would cause a lower friction coefficient of the tires, as I estimated to be 0.9. And the quarter mile time for this gear ratio was 17.58, which is about right. Ideally, we may have gotten to the actual quarter mile time, but this was the lowest we could get. And you can see all of our times here. That's about it. Thank you.